Have you heard? It's truck news.
I don't watch the news because I'm a kid.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
That's right. Welcome back to the Truck Show podcast. Have you heard? It is proudly brought to you in partnership with AMSOIL, the maker of the best synthetics and the same ones we use in our rigs. From now until December 31st, take advantage of AMSOIL's holiday offer. Spend $125 or more on synthetic oil, lubricants, greases, car care products, and yes, even merch. Get the AMSOIL Blocks UTV set for free. Use the promo code Holman2025 at checkout on AMSOIL.com. We use AMSOIL products to protect our rigs, and you should too. And while you're thinking about gifts, consider getting your loved ones or yourself a brand new Kershaw knife for 40% off MSRP. This includes automatics, USA-made knives, and the code can be used more than once. Please feel free to gift the promo code to your friends for their use. Write this down or take note. The code is 2TSP2025, and get that holiday shopping crossed off your list today at kershaw.kaiusa.com. And OVR Magazine also makes a great gift. If you want the latest in adventure, gear, and upgrades for your vehicle, go to OVRmag.com and use the code @TruckShowPodcast for a discount on print or a 1-year digital subscription for free. The Truck Show podcast survives off of sponsorships and your reviews. Please help me to keep it free by supporting our sponsors and leaving reviews and comments on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Have you heard?
No.
Well, a whole lot has been going on when we took our news sabbatical over the past, couple months. And I don't even know where to start. So I think for a little while, we're going to do a little bit of current news and a little bit of catch-you-up news. So in this episode, we have all sorts of stuff to talk about. And the first one is the Trump administration's proposed rollback of CAFE standards. So there's a lot of opinion out there and a lot of people who are balancing the claims and what we're actually going to get out of it, this and that. I thought SEMA had a really nice release on it, and I think it kind of sets the right tone. So SEMA's release says, President Trump has announced plans to significantly roll back federal fuel economy standards to levels established prior to the Biden administration. Using the federal rulemaking process, the U.S. Department of Transportation proposes relaxing federal fuel economy standards for model year 22 through 31 light-duty vehicles to 34.5 miles per gallon, down from the 50.4 miles per gallon threshold set by the Biden administration. Under the proposed rulemaking, the unwinding will be complete by 2031. Additionally, crossovers and small SUVs would be reclassified as passenger vehicles rather than as light trucks. SEMA supports the proposed standards, which help automakers to produce vehicles that the marketplace demands, while aftermarket businesses are not subject to CAFE standards. This proposal is expected to provide automakers with the flexibility they need to produce the types of vehicles that are embraced by automotive enthusiasts and are often modified. This policy shift follows the adoption of the One Big Beautiful Bill in July, which eliminates penalties assessed to automakers that failed to meet the fuel economy targets. This represented a significant change in federal law and reflects a broader move by President Trump and congressional Republicans to provide automakers with greater flexibility to produce and sell vehicles based on consumer demands. It's also a significant move away from previous federal policies that pushed OEMs and consumers to favor electric vehicles over those with internal combustion engines. SEMA will review the proposed CAFE regulations and provide official comments to DOT on the proposal, and that comment deadline will be in mid-January. So, I think you guys know where I stand on this, right? I want consumer choice. I don't think the federal government should necessarily put their fingers on the scales and choose winners and losers when it comes to technology. But there are a lot of opinions out there on this one. I'm glad to see it, but there's an argument of $1,000 cheaper for a new vehicle on average versus saving $1,000 over the vehicle's lifetime at the higher mile per gallon on fuel. But there's plenty of places to get that commentary. Then there's also the protectionism argument of free market versus tariffs. It's actually a pretty fascinating debate if you dig down into it a little bit. Again, I'm all for consumer choice, especially when it means killer enthusiast vehicles will continue to be made. So I'm in favor of this. I know there's probably some valid arguments of why I shouldn't be, but I'm sorry. I like the V8s. I'm all for it, but I think this is a win for automotive enthusiasts. Now, on another SEMA note, this one is huge. You guys remember I was talking about being at SEMA and I moderated a panel on ADAS, and ADAS is coming in hard. It's coming in fast. And the way the regulations are sort of coming together right now, it's possible we could hit model year 29, which is not that far away. I mean, we're in model year 26 starting right now, where you will not be able to modify your vehicle. So this is another major SEMA step here. So SEMA put out a article on SEMA.org on the SEMA news page. SEMA is celebrating the U.S. House of Representatives' introduction of the ADAS Functionality and Integrity Act, HB 6688. SEMA worked closely with lawmakers from both parties to secure bipartisan support for the legislation, which ensures that the aftermarket businesses have the information needed to properly calibrate advanced driver assistance systems, or ADAS, after vehicles are modified. This legislation is critical to being able to safely make common modifications, including installing bike racks, wrapping a vehicle, installing larger wheels and tires, or installing a winch or aftermarket bumpers without compromising the functionality of ADAS. The bill is timely because a forthcoming federal mandate requires new model year 29 vehicles feature automatic emergency braking, bringing important safety systems to all new vehicles sold in the U.S. Now, the ADAS Functionality and Integrity Act would require NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration, to establish ADAS guidelines to create modification ranges and tolerances for new vehicles, starting with the model year of 28. So essentially what that means is, rather than the manufacturer hoarding the data and saying, oh no, we won't tell you what the range that you have to work with is when you modify a vehicle. Let's say if the sensors can be adjusted within a 4-inch lift, and the manufacturer knows that, and the manufacturer says, well, check it out. We're going to keep that information to ourselves so that we can sell the aftermarket lift kit or whatever and keep it in our dealerships and not let the aftermarket get any and block them out. This law would require the manufacturers to share that data so manufacturers on the aftermarket side know exactly what they can get away with while keeping the vehicle safe and in compliance. If you remember when we had SoCal Auto Glass Kings on and they were talking about how adaptive cruise control issues were popping up with a aftermarket windshield, which otherwise passed the optic and clarity test. So it's going to get even worse than that. We talked about how sometimes when you are adjusting those systems, there are ways to cheat it. Some are dynamic, some are static, some have a target that just sits out in the vehicle. Sometimes people will lower the air out of the tires so they can lower a lifted vehicle closer to stock to get the green check boxes, all that kind of stuff. So as you can see, this is really important for the aftermarket to know what they're working with, right? And a little background from SEMA, a few quick notes. SEMA research indicates that more than 50 million cars and trucks in the United States are modified or accessorized each year, a number that both underscores the urgent need for ADAS standards that account for real-world vehicle modifications and the significant number of consumers who modify their vehicles. SEMA has released a series of white papers examining how aftermarket modifications affect ADAS performance across popular vehicles. These vehicles that they included were the Chevrolet Silverado 1500, Ford F-150, Ford Bronco, Toyota Tacoma, and the Ram 1500. That research provided clear, data-driven insight into how changes such as lift kits, wheels, and suspension components influence sensor reliability. The findings help manufacturers, installers, and enthusiasts understand when recalibration is needed and to preserve full ADAS functionality. So SEMA, once again, is going after legislation to make sure that the rules are in step with what the consumers demand and also what's available and what's realistic from the technology we have. This is huge. We'll stay on top of it here at the Truck Show Podcast. As you guys know, this is something that I brought up quite a bit. And I don't know about you, I don't want to be 3 years away from not being able to modify a vehicle. Now, the other huge, big, giant story, Ford killed off the F-150 Lightning. Dead. Gone. So if you've been following the news, maybe not from here because this happened, I think, after we went on our news hiatus, Novelis, Ford's aluminum supplier in New York, had a huge fire. So Ford paused Lightning production, which probably helped them out because they weren't selling, and basically said, hey, we're going to make another shift of F-150 ICE and hybrids. We're going to divert those resources over there because of this aluminum shortage. We're not going to have enough to make the electric truck as well. And guess what? December, it's coming back online, and nope, Ford puts out a statement saying that the Lightning is forever discontinued, at least in its current BEV form.
Lightning, 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 lightning.
Now, the F-150 Lightning had some issues, mostly pricing. The truck itself was pretty good, although at that size, you get to this kind of delta of diminishing returns of how big your battery pack has to be so that you can still get range while towing and hauling and things like that. As an air hauler, as an everyday vehicle, they were great. Lots to like about it, but they weren't great at doing truck things. So I think consumers who wanted a personal use pickup really loved it, and fleets and consumers who wanted a truck that could work, it wasn't enough, and the batteries just weren't big enough to make you have over 150 miles range while towing, for example. Things like that. So 3.5 years. The other issue is pricing. The pricing fluctuated all the time, as did the mix of trims and things like that, and it was a little bit confusing as they sort of tried to get their ground. But this is an interesting quote from Doug Field, Ford's chief EV digital and design officer. And he says, quote unquote, "The F-150 Lightning is a groundbreaking product that demonstrated an electric pickup can still be a great F-Series. Our next generation Lightning E-Rev is every bit as revolutionary. It keeps everything customers love. 100% electric power delivery, sub 5-second acceleration, and adds an estimated 700 plus mile range and tows like a locomotive. It will be an incredibly versatile tool delivered in a capital efficient way." So what does that tell you? Well, remember when we talked about Ram dropped their battery only BEV Ram 1500. And they said, nope, we're going with the extended range. They called it a REV, range extended electric vehicle. Ford calls it an E-Rev. So essentially, Ford is following Ram's lead, saying no more all-electric pickup truck. We're going to go with the one that's electric but has a generator on board. Now, keep in mind, it's not a hybrid because that engine doesn't turn the wheels. It doesn't act on the drivetrain. What it does is it charges the battery and provides power to the motor. So it's still an all-electric vehicle and experience, but you can go to your local gas station to fill up the tank. That's where Ram's going. That's where Scout's going. That's where Nissan's going. That's where Ford is now going. In vehicles that are the half-ton size or bigger, this really excites me. I think this makes the most sense from a technology standpoint and getting the most performance, but also capability out of the vehicle. There's a lot to like with EVs, but there's also massive drawbacks, such as extended charging times and range, especially when you're maxing out the capability. So I think this E-Rev version is the best of all the worlds, at least where technology sits today. So now Ram's gone E-Rev. Ford's going E-Rev. They will not have a Lightning next year. So if you want that truck, go buy it now because stocks are going to dwindle on that. And you can probably get a great deal, I would imagine. Where does that leave GM? Because GM's really committed to the Ultium platform. You've got the Hummer, you've got the GMC Sierra and the Avalanche Silverado. Those are out there. They're going to be kind of alone with the battery-only truck in that size. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Lots of crazy stuff going on in the automotive world, especially when it comes to battery vehicles. So one more note on Ford killing the electric pickup truck. So while the next generation will come back with the range extender, they are pivoting to hybrids and to gas engines. And that means that because of this EV bust, and I don't know if this includes just the Lightning or if it also includes Mach-E, which apparently is still in production, but Ford's going to take a $19.5 billion, as in billion-dollar charge to its bottom line and its books because of this EV decision.
Dude, that was painful,
is what the accounting office is saying within the halls of Ford. So, but, sometimes you take a big swing in business and sometimes you miss. I don't expect Ford to be on the ropes long. They know trucks and they know what their customers want. All right, next up on news, here's another big one that happened while we were away from doing news. And that is the fact that Allison and GM are, breaking apart. So, kind of interesting. Allison, back in, I want to say 2001, GM really was trying to make the Duramax engine a leader in the diesel space. And they paired it with an Allison transmission from their medium-duty trucks because they really wanted Allison to bring that name and that durability recognition to their vehicles. And then sometime in, if I had to think, I want to say it's 2018. And that's when GM said, hey, we're doing this 10L1000, which we developed in-house with a little bit of help from Allison. And it's a GM transmission, but we're going to call it a Allison transmission on the badging. And so since 2020 plus, I think all the HD pickup trucks have all had the Allison branded 10-speed transmission. So this is the announcement that came out. General Motors licensed to use Allison transmission trademarks in connection with Chevrolet Silverado HD and GMC Sierra HD 2500, 3500 trucks will expire at the end of the day on December 31st, 2025. Upon expiration, all sub-licenses to authorized dealers are also automatically terminated. Following expiration of the license agreement, GM and its authorized dealers are permitted a single 180-day period from January 1st, 2026 through June 29th, 2026 to market, advertise, and sell their remaining inventory of products bearing the licensed Allison marks, provided all such uses remain compliant with the terms of the licensing agreement. What does this mean for you? Beginning with early December production, Silverado and Sierra HD trucks will no longer be equipped with Allison badged transmissions. As of this date, you must not create, publish new advertising and marketing materials using Allison trademarks for newly produced Silverado and Sierra HDs that do not carry Allison badging. You may, however, continue to market, advertise, and sell on-hand inventory that bears Allison trademarks through the 180-day sell-down window ending on June 29th, 2026. After that date, any and all use of Allison marks to promote and sell Allison badged inventory must cease. To that end, by June 29th, 2026, you must pull down all digital website references, remove point-of-sale materials, and discontinue publishing or advertising. Prior to June 29th, 2026, GM will initiate a field action to retrofit any remaining Allison badge dealer inventory with a non-Allison badge. Again, this is required as GM dealers will not be permitted to advertise or sell new Allison badged inventory after June 29th, 2026. More details will be shared at a later date. And so if you caught that thing at the end, a field action, yes, GM is actually going to go not only on the production line and swap out that Allison badge, they've also created those non-Allison badges that are going to be going on the ones that are in inventory on new trucks. So I don't know the full story of how the separation happened. If it was something GM decided, hey, we're tired of having a third party on our trucks. We know we make a great transmission, so we're going to get rid of that and just have everything consumer-facing point back to us. And that way there's no confusion in the marketplace. Or if Allison said, hey, we're out, or they just couldn't come to an agreement, or it was planned, I have no idea. But Allison will still be on the medium-duty GM trucks, and so it'll be interesting to see what effects, if any, this has on the industry. I honestly don't think it matters anymore. I think today's diesel trucks and trans are pretty darn good. They've come a long way in the last 20 years. But that's a big one. I don't know if anyone saw that one coming, or if it was on your 2025 bingo card. Hey, if you want to be a Oscar Mayer Wienermobile driver, or what they call a hot dogger, until the end of January, Oscar Mayer is looking for college graduates who want a full-time job driving the Wienermobile. I think they said they had 6 vehicles and 12 slots, and they want those 12 recent college grads to drive the 27-foot hot dog-shaped trucks. And normally they say they receive more than 5,000 annual applications, which is... that's a lot of people. And a couple of quick facts coming from Car and Driver on the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. The original Wienermobile made its debut in 1936. Now they've got 6 hot dogs on wheels. The Wieners are 27 feet long and based on a Isuzu MPR HD cab-over truck. But they've got a bunch of GM parts bin pieces and components from a lot of performance vehicles like the C6 Corvette, 5th generation Camaro ZL1, and the Cadillac CTS-V, although they don't tell us which ones they have. According to the listing, hot doggers are also expected to engage in media appearances and work as content creators. So, sounds like a fun job. I missed my calling, so maybe you could pick me up on that. But if you're interested and you think you've got the skills to pilot the Wiener, then head over to oscarmayer.com/Wienermobile. Nissan is exploring a bunch of body-on-frame vehicles, including the return of the Xterra, and also making the Pathfinder a body-on-frame SUV again, which I think would be awesome. Here's a quote on The Drive from the LA Auto Show, where Nissan SVP Michael Suter exclusively told The Drive that the Xterra has got to start sub $40,000 and it's got to come in yellow, which I think on both counts are awesome. If you know anything about the old Xterra, it was a great vehicle off-road. It won Four Wheelers SUV of the Year, or Four Wheeler of the Year, I guess, more appropriately. And if you're in the secondary market and you try and find an Xterra with the off-road package, which is the equivalent of the Nismo or the Pro 4X on the Frontier, they are A, hard to find, and B, pretty darn pricey, because everybody in the secondary market knows what a great vehicle that is. So if you're going to bring a fun-to-drive, sub-$40,000 body-on-frame SUV, which can be optioned with, well, a rear locker, 33s or better, sign me up. I mean, those things were awesome. So what do they want the Xterra to be? Well, Suter continued the capability, fun, adventure, harkening back to the original Xterra, in that the Xterra needs to be very competent off-road. And yes, it will have a 2-speed transfer case. So if we think about it, body on frame, rear locker, 2-speed transfer case, most likely going to be built on the Frontier platform, which is great, and see what happens. But I hope they make it a little bit asymmetrical like the original, because it didn't look like anything else. It had a ton of personality. And the fact that they want to bring it back in yellow is all the things that are right with the world. So I can't wait for Nissan to finally give us some details on what the Xterra will be. I think it's coming out for the 27 or 28 model year. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's coming. You go, Nissan. Do it. You'll have buyers lined up because it's the vehicle that you need. All right, one last news piece before we go today. Let's get into a recall.
Check engine light just went on. Noise under the hood ticks like a bomb. Recall covers metal, glass, leather, and plastic. Door handle pulled off in my hand. Just fantastic.
All right, on this version of Have You Heard, the recall goes to the 2026 Ford Super Duty. So looks like Ford had an issue where the right rear axle shaft may have been improperly heat treated during manufacturing by its supplier. And of course, a broken rear axle shaft can result in a loss of drive power, could cause the vehicle to roll away, loss of control, crash, all those things. But Ford's not aware of any reports of accidents or injuries related to the issue. And the fortunate thing is they caught it pretty quick. So the affected vehicles are 26 Ford Super Duty F-250 and 350 trucks, produced between October 2nd and November 5th of 25, and it only affects 6,819 vehicles. So the fix is dealers will inspect the right rear axle shaft date code and replace the axle shaft as necessary, free of charge. There will be some communications coming from Ford beginning on January 5th, so you should get that in your mailbox if you had the truck. Just for your reference, the recall number is 25SD8, and you can call Ford Customer Service or your local dealer to get your truck scheduled for an inspection. All right, well, that's the end of this episode of Have You Heard? We got a lot more news. We got days of this stuff, so expect a few more podcasts coming out soon. Don't forget, please follow us on social at Truck Show Podcast, or email us if you want to be part of the show, truckshowpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we'd love to hear you. 657-205-6105. Leave a message on the 5-star hotline and be part of the show. And lastly, we have to thank AMSOIL, Kershaw, and OVR Magazine for making this show possible. And don't forget to leave us a review. Looking forward to doing it again soon.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis, hosted by Sean Holman, and uses production elements by DJ Omar Khan and Jay Tillis. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to support the show than by sharing it and patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.